will be passed. This is the word to His Excellency the President. There is no way he can intervene. That answer he gave. That is now before Parliament. And when he gets to a stage that he will come in. Hey, please. This is legislation. This is not execution. The bill will be passed. This is the word to His Excellency the President. There is no way he can intervene. That answer he gave. That is now before Parliament. And when he gets to a stage that he will come in. Hey, please. This is legislation. This is not execution.
And presents its recommendation on the draft bill. They have acted. At a review of the draft bill, the Legal Committee has recommended some changes to the bill in an 18-page document that is now due for consideration by the entire floor of the House.
This bill, which many of you, in fact, are of interest in there, following how things will play out, is going to be laid before Parliament. The proposals by this committee that was charged, the Parliamentary Legal Affairs Committee charged to look into this bill, have made some proposals in an 18-page document. My colleague Dennis Wadam Poberi is joining me in studio. He's been combing through this 18-page document to break it down so we understand. Dennis, first off, we see the title of this bill as a subject for a proposed amendment. What does it say?
Well, so Alfred, if you look at the bill we have at the moment, it's actually undergone some modifications, and one of the key modifications is the change in the short title. Every bill, or which will eventually become an act, usually will have a short title and then a long title. The short title typically is the name of the bill, the name by which we refer to it. So you notice that when this was first laid before Parliament, it came with the name Promotion of Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill. But then, upon some considerations, including a legal opinion by the AG, the use of the word proper there, according to the AG, was subjective, because what may be proper to someone may not be proper to another.
I see.
So for that reason, his proposal was that, or his opinion was that the word proper be dropped. Then again, there was the issue of the use of Ghanaians in there. According to the AG, for all laws that are passed in Ghana, they apply to Ghanaians, except there's an express statement that it does not apply to Ghanaians. For that reason, there wasn't the need for the Ghanaians to be added. And that's the thinking that went into the change of the name from the Promotion of Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill to what we now have as Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill.
I see. So they've proposed that the proper be taken off.
Yes.
And then the
And
Ghanaian.
of course, the promotion too has been taken off. The argument made for it too is that to the extent that this bill, if eventually becomes a law, will be an expression of whatever is contained in that document. In essence, it is promoting it. So there's no need for us to have promotion in there, and the proper, because it is subjective, there's no need for us to have it there. And of course, Ghanaians also taken out because when the laws are passed, they apply to Ghanaians unless the contrary is implied, and
so,
I mean, especially stated.
So if this is approved by the House tomorrow, then this will stand?
Yes, so the name will then come,
the name.
yes, human with a year, and of course, they'll give it a number.
I see. So the next proposal of the proposed amendment to this is the long title, An Act to Provide for Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values. Let us into that, because that,
so like
that
I mentioned earlier, usually you'd have the short title and a long title. So the long title will be some sort of definition or an expression of what the law is supposed to do. So the proponents brought in the bill with this particular long title, and it's read, An Act to Provide for Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values, Proscribe LGBTQ+ and related activities, proscribe propaganda. It went on and on and on and on. Per the AG's legal opinion, he thought it could have been simpler or easier. So his proposal was that it be read, An Act to Provide for Human Sexual Rights and Family Values and related matters.
I see.
That was considered. And it's what has been effected into the changes that we see today.
So The LGBTQ, I see the alphabets there.
Yes.
LGBTQIAAP plus and relative or related activities.
Well,
that's also another subject of conversation or proposed amendment?
yes. Quite a number of the letters of the alphabet indicated have been taken out, and this is because the proponents of the bill actually came in with what they call an application. So when you look at the first clause, it came with an application where they listed all the categories of people or activities that this act, the bill was supposed to apply to. So when you see the L there, the L stands for lesbian, the G stands for gay, the B stands for bisexual, T stands for transgender, the other T stands for transsexual, Q stands for queer, A stands for ally, and P stands for pansexual. As we go forward, you'd notice that there were some issues. For instance, queer, for instance, has been taken out.
The Q?
Yes, the Q has been taken out. Yes. The argument made for it is simple, that queer simply represents all the things that have been named. So it represents lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. So there's no need to have it there. According to the committee, that will merely be superfluous to have it in there. The issue of an intersex.
That's the I.
Yes, there's an I somewhere, which is intersex, also came up strongly. And even before the AG had offered a legal opinion, there was that conversation about why an intersex should be criminalized, or you being an intersex should be criminalized. The argument made for that is that it's not always the case that an intersex is a product of you being an LGBTQ, but it could be biological. And for that reason, it will not be appropriate for it to be criminalized. So that has also been taken out.
Interesting. So the alphabets then now keep reducing, is that not?
Yes.
So now we don't have the LGBTQQIAAP plus.
Not anymore.
So what's it going to be now?
So,
per the proposal. That is if it is eventually accepted by the plenary, correct? But what's the amendment position? So
when it's accepted, it will go on without. So anywhere you see Q, you take it out. If you see I, you take it out. So it will not read LGBT, T, AAP plus.
Wow, I see. and you've so that's what you see there. So that's the AG's legal opinion on that. And then, as you explained to us quite eloquently. So what's the next one? That this act applies to a person who has a biological anomaly.
Yes. So I think we have dealt with this already, and that's the part that talks about the intersex. Yes. So it was deleted because the committee agreed that biological anomalies, including intersex, may be congenital and not necessarily being a product of LGBTQ. The other issue that was also considered was the fact that in this particular bill, there was a proposal that, that criminalizes sexual intercourse between same sex, that's man, woman, and then a man and an animal, or a woman and an animal. Per the AG's legal opinion, he said that has already been covered by Act 29, that's our criminal code, and that for the reason that it's been covered there, there's no need for them to repeat it, except they want to expand it. Okay. Now, this is the explanation that came in there. When you look at Act 29, the very section that we quote every day to say that unnatural carnal knowledge is not allowed in our practices, the AG makes the point that that particular section does not criminalize female and female sexual intercourse.
Right.
So if it has to be expanded, then it will be expanded to include what is known as lesbianism.
I see.
So that proposal was taken. So the effect was that they had to modify the bill to now criminalize same-sex sexual intercourse between a female and a female, because unnatural carnal knowledge, by its definition, requires some penetration. But the explanation is that if two females are having an intercourse, there cannot be that penetration.
Okay.
There was also an interesting twist in there.
What you read is what is on the screen, correct?
Yes.
The criminalized sexual intercourse between same sex.
Yes.
And a man or woman and an animal.
Yes.
As well as pansexual, and made a second-degree felony.
So that was what originally was proposed. AG says that for the first part of it, which criminalizes sexual intercourse between same sex, that is taken care of by Act 29. And of course, with the animal, it's also taken care of by Act 29. what was not in there was sexual intercourse between two females.
I see.
So he proposed that if there could be an expansion, the committee also considered that, of course, there needed to be that, so that lesbianism will now be a crime under our laws. There was also another inconsistency in there, which needed to be aligned.
Okay.
And that was because if you look at all those things that I've mentioned earlier, under our criminal code, it's a misdemeanor. But this particular bill made it a second-degree felony. What it meant was that if you were charged under this particular law, the punishment would be higher than if you were charged under our criminal code. So the AG says that for that reason, there was the need for them to align. So they had to align it properly. The interesting twist to this was, there was an addition that a man cannot have a marriage with an object. That was not in our laws.
I see. But now I see that in the point 2.
Yes.
Under the changes.
Yes. So now it's an offense for one to marry an object.
So marriage between a person and an object.
So a man marrying an object or a woman marrying an object is a criminal offense.
Per the proposal until it is approved.
Yes, so that is the modification now. So if it's approved in this form, what it means is that you can't marry an object like we hear elsewhere that people have gotten married to our laptops.
Absolutely. Right on. I mean, marrying the laptop. Interesting relative analysis that you do there. Let's look at this one. Criminalize sexual intercourse between same-sex and a man or a woman and an animal, as well as... Okay, so we've looked at this. So that's a person who uses the media or technological platform to publish and disseminate materials directed at a child commits an offense and is liable. So what's the AG's legal opinion on this?
Yes, so the AG agreed wholly with this expression here. The only even when you look at the AG's opinion, he said it was in the public interest and it was consistent with Article 12(2) of the 1992 Constitution. So this actually was also taken, except that it was just modified to align, because we have a similar law in our Cybersecurity Act, and that was taken into consideration. So essentially, these are some of the things. There are quite a number of changes that have been made in this particular act, including the one that talks about using the media to propagate propaganda or trying to support in any way the activities of LGBTQ. So all those things have been captured in there. They've done an extensive work looking at clause by clause and making all the modifications as and when they thought was necessary.
Interesting stuff. And then it's great detail that you give to us. And just to break it down in simple language so that our viewers can follow quite closely. This is available on TV3 Ghana on Facebook. You can go back, play it, and understand the proposed amendments to this anti-LGBTQ plus bill. Let's go on to the telephone now. And the Member of Parliament for the South Dike constituency, who is a member of this Parliamentary Select Committee on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs that's charged with the responsibility of this bill, Nelson Roxon Dafio-Mekpo is a private legal practitioner as well, joining us. Thank you for time. So what went into these proposed amendments by your committee?
Not at all. First of all, good evening to your viewers if we are on TV, and good evening to your listeners if we are on radio.
We are on TV. Yes.
Every bill, let me make the point that pursuant to Article 106 of the Constitution, every bill that is accompanied by a memorandum and brought to Parliament for it to be enacted into law goes through some reform. The reformation may depend on the quality of the bill that has been brought. And our bill, the anti-LGBT bill, is one of the most quality bills that I have seen in my life in Parliament for the past 7 years. Yes, even government's own bills, sometimes they are even rejected. I have been in Parliament and government brought a bill that was rejected because it was horribly drafted. They had to go back and put their house in order. Our bill has gone through some process that is reviewed by the committee as a result of the nearly 150 memoranda that is attracted from private citizens, groups, entities, companies, and all.
Yeah.
And as a committee, we took our time to review nearly every memoranda, as well as the people who sponsored this memoranda. We listened to them and collated their inputs to feature in the bill. So if anybody says that a bill that comes to Parliament will go through some amendments, it's not speaking truly to or has very little understanding of how legislation process works. But by and large, our bill has not been materially changed. The government of the bill, the issues that we raise, the issues that we feel strongly about, have all been maintained in the bill that will be coming to the floor tomorrow, hopefully, when the report is taken. The report has been laid today. Hopefully, it will be debated tomorrow and adopted with the proposed amendment exhibited to the report that will feature when we go to the consideration. So,
okay.
If you look at, for instance, the one you mentioned, which is the prison term, we proposed 5 years. But we discovered later on that
that's what you have there.
the Parent Act, which is Act 29, the provisions regarding all misdemeanor deals with a maximum prison term of 3 years. So if you are describing the conduct such as this, conduct prescribed by the law, that is an LGBT conduct that is prescribed by law, and you are proposing 5 years, then it means you are enlarging the original remit of the law regarding maximum sentence for misdemeanors from 3 years to 5 years. And so at Fonse, we agreed to such an amendment because we don't want to open the floodgate in that matter. So, but what it means is that whatever it is, if you engage in an LGBT conduct which is prescribed by law, there's a prison term of about 3 years for you, or a fine, or both. It is so punitive in that case. But as lawyers will tell you, one of the key reasons for sending people to prison when they commit an offense is actually to reform them. So the essence of prescribing a prison term for such conduct prescribed by law is not really to, as it were, punish the people, but to get them to reform. And so the thematic areas of the bill have survived. And that's the beauty of it. The Attorney General's views or memo hasn't materially changed this bill, as the President has been misled into saying at all.